Never again, never again, never again. And outside the Hall of Remembrance for the 6 million, down a few steps, for a few cents, you can buy a very good knish because life goes on. And the war. I call Danitz again. I say, tell Kissinger we lost planes like flies today. And I have a new list from Dodo. Tanks, spare parts, electronic mishmash. You'll have it in the morning. And Simcha, half this war is being fought by you. Such a thought scares you? Good, let it. And this state, its endless cost, not even leaving out Mars. I have a dream that keeps coming back. Sarala, a tot, sickly, holding her little doll and wails, my dolly's sick, I want mama. And Menachem comes in, says, she's in Haifa at a meeting. And Mars comes in and says, what's the difficulty here? And Menachem says, I have nobody to carry my cello. Where's mother? And Mars says, she's in Geneva at a meeting. And a young woman, Sarah, grown up, says, I didn't know you were still here, Papa. And he says, just waiting to see your mother. And she says, she's in New York at a meeting. Which is how he died, sitting alone in my flat. I was in New York. And yes, I ruined his life. A beautiful soul, loved music, brought with them all those breakable old records. He loved language, read Proust, Joyce, and Freud, loved knowledge. He went with a partner to buy the Encyclopedia Britannica. Survivors own the book. 1951, 3 years after our declaration of state, but it doesn't keep Jews from dying or fighting among ourselves. Our declaration said, with trust in the rock of Israel, and already we couldn't agree. The rabbis demanded we say God, and the left wouldn't sign to a God they didn't believe in. Ben-Gurion spent half an afternoon convincing everybody that the rock meant God or the people, and he was waiting to rush the scroll to a vault in a bank so that it would survive if we didn't. And from my window, I had seen 4 Egyptian Spitfires zooming in to bomb Tel Aviv. And our courier in Washington can't deliver it to the White House until we agree at least on a name. Judah, Zion, Israel. And then Ben-Gurion read it out, very matter of fact, until he came to, this state will be open to the ingathering of exiles. The absolute core of what we had worked for all this century, and his voice broke. And my turn to sign. Someone behind me said, why are you crying so, Golda? And I said, if not now, when? And that's how, after 2,000 years of exile, we brought our state back into being. You're from my balcony, first this one, later the other one. I had a view of the Mediterranean and ships arriving with our exiles, refugees and survivors. From where? Well, Europe, of course, and Africa, and Arabia, and even China. In 2 years, we doubled our population with hundreds of thousands. And what did Israel mean to them? I know from Moscow. When we left Russia, Jews were not allowed in Moscow. It was a Tsar. As ambassador, I came back with 25, my legation. We lived together like a kibbutz. We shared chores, no salary, the same spending money for everybody. Under Stalin, we were more Catholic than the Pope. I knew there were thousands of Jews in Moscow, but how to reach them after 40 years, I did not see. Even our relatives, we were afraid to contact for their sake. The remnants of my family disappeared in the war. At the Moscow synagogue, only a handful of shabby Jews would still come. So on Rosh Hashanah, our new year, I said we should all go. And we notified the rabbi. Word spread. And that day in the street, we were mobbed by 50,000 Jews, old men and women, Russian Red soldiers, teenagers, mothers with babies, stretching out their hands and calling in Yiddish, Golda, Golda, Leben sollst du. And when the rabbi saw a military attaché with a soldier's hat with the Star of David on it, he shrieked. And to those thousands that were blowing me kisses, crying, picking up a handful of my dress and kissing it, I was so taken aback, I couldn't think of anything to say. Only one miserable sentence. A dank was seid geblieben Juden. Thank you for remaining Jews. And the sentence spread through the crowd like a word from Isaiah, through the crowd. And in the crowd, there was a 12-year-old boy with a birthday camera and took a picture. And for weeks, Jews on the street would stop one of us and say, I have the picture, I have the picture. And copies were made and traveled everywhere. In Siberia, a young woman from Lithuania sat by the fire, warming her frozen chunk of bread. She spied someone among the trees looking at her. He said, are you Jewish? She said, yes. And out of his rags, he took the torn picture and whispered, there is a Jewish state. And that is what Israel meant to Jews from Yemen to Siberia. And now I'm presiding as prime minister over its destruction. Kissinger didn't call. Dinitz called me. I gave him the list from Dodo. I said, we're running out of planes, tanks, ammunition, spare parts, electronic mishmash. And for the third time, I say, I want to come to Washington myself and talk to Nixon incognito. And he says, that's the last thing they want. I say, why? Because it will identify America with us. It's a provocation to the Soviets. I said incognito. Then it says, but Nixon has already approved of everything on our list in principle. What does that mean in principle? It means that as soon as they can locate civilian planes to charter, I lost my temper. Ich wärme sugar da. Where are the things? Call Kissinger back. And it says, Golda, it's past 1 in the morning here. I can't call him. I say, wake him up. Does he know the Soviets are airlifting to Damascus? Where are they getting charters? From Eskimos? And he says, Golda, I do nothing but run between the embassy and the State Department. I'm sleeping. Good, everybody is sleeping there. He says, I can't call anyone till dawn. But 2 hours later, as soon as our cabinet meeting breaks up, I phone Dinitz, and at 3 in the morning, he wakes Kissinger again. And at 8, they meet in the White House. Simcha insists they be alone for my message, so both aides were sent out of the room. And no record exists of what was said. And now come to my second balcony. I go away from my view of the sea, go south to the Negev, our desert. It's not sand. It's broken rock, a seabed of rubble as far as the eye could reach. Uninhabitable. Ben-Gurion said, go south. The Negev is our future. It also had uranium. It's where my daughter's kibbutz, Revavim, was raised out of the rubble. Its nearest town is Beersheba, which was once a stop for the ancient camel trade route. It's where they say Abraham dug a well. The well we dug, not for water. 24 miles to the south was near a place called Dimona. In my autobiography, I do not mention Dimona.